More than 4,000 people in Bermuda have already downloaded the app, and that number continues to increase daily. Our families, neighbors, and community depend on us to help prevent the spread of coronavirus, which is why we urge all Bermudians and visitors to the island to download the app from the App Store or Google Play. You can find it by searching for WeHealth Bermuda. If a person is tested and they are positive for the coronavirus and they have downloaded the app, they will receive a randomized verification code from the Ministry of Health. The person will enter that code into the app, and WeHealth Bermuda will then anonymously notify other WeHealth app users that an infected person was in close proximity, even if they do not know that person. Because WeHealth Bermuda does not use or collect personal information or track users' locations, these notifications will be completely anonymous. Instead, WeHealth Bermuda uses secure Bluetooth signals to measure how long and how close different app users were together. Once you download and install the app on your smartphone, there is nothing else for you to do. The app will run in the background and alert you to any exposure risks, and it uses very little data and minimal battery life to run. Please, I cannot stress it enough, encourage your friends, your family, and coworkers to download the WeHealth Bermuda app. Employers, if you have persons in your office who are required to be in your office for work purposes, I implore you to insist that they are using the WeHealth Bermuda app. Employers who may have devices which are company devices, I would ask that you have your IT departments to ensure that this app is automatically downloaded and placed on phones. We are going to be working with phone companies to try to make sure that notifications are sent out to get people to install this app, but I cannot stress how vital the wide use and installation of this app is necessary in order for us to reduce the spread. If you have any questions about the WeHealth Bermuda app, please visit www.gov.bm/WeHealth, or you can email covidapps@gov.bm. Pairing WeHealth Bermuda exposure notifications with manual contact tracing and other preventative measures like wearing a mask, physical distancing, and frequent hand washing means better protection for us all. As we navigate through this spike, we have to use every possible tool to contain the spread. As I've mentioned in the past, this tool was piloted at the University of Arizona this year, and it helped reduce the rate of infection from a daily average of 160 new cases to only 5 new cases in only a few weeks. And it's important to note, especially as in Bermuda right now, we have the issue of mass quarantine of individuals. The results at the University of Arizona were achieved by employing targeted quarantine of individuals at high risk of infection because they were notified by the app, rather than mass quarantines or a complete lockdown. They were able to reduce infections by 97%, and were able to continue classes in person just by using this app. I cannot express how critical our current efforts to curb the current outbreak it is for persons to use this app, and how essential it is for everyone's participation. I have the app on my phone, which I downloaded several weeks ago. The app has updated, so it no longer lists Bermuda and Bermuda Pilot at the top. It now lists Bermuda residents and Bermuda visitors. But the app itself is live. As I've said, once you download the app, you do not have to do anything else. It's running in the background, and as I said, does not uses minimal data, and as it's Bluetooth low energy, it will not drain your battery life. As easy and as simple as it sounds, this technology, together with other public health guidance, including extensive testing that we are using in the fight against the coronavirus on our shores, will help us in the current outbreak. Each person who is watching this broadcast on Facebook, please take a minute to download the app. Once you download it, message to friends and tell them to download the app. I wish to extend my thanks and appreciation to everyone who has worked late nights and weekends on this app to ensure a successful launch today. Members of the Department of Information and Digital Technology, persons in the Ministry of Health, and persons in the Department of Communications, and most importantly, our overseas partners at WeHealth. Special thanks go to Martin Walsh of the Information and Digital Technology Department and Dennis Pitcher, who is in the FinTech unit, who have been driving this initiative. Also, thanks to the collaboration from a number of community partners in the research efforts in getting us to decide on the correct app approach to take. Bermuda will be one of the first countries to deploy a fully privacy-compliant, countrywide anonymous notification application. Again, as I end, this app is completely anonymous. It does not require registration. It does not ask you for your phone number. It does not ask you for your email address, and your data is not shared with anyone. That data resides on your phone and with the technology of which is being used when a notification code is sent to you is the time that information is transmitted. The app is vital to ensure that we can quickly tackle this current outbreak. And I urge everyone to download this app so that we can use the power of technology to defeat the coronavirus. Let me give you an example. In using this app, as I've said, in the situations where we've seen where there has been large amounts of persons quarantined because they may have been at a particular location during a current time. If persons are using the apps, only the persons who would have been in close enough proximity to a person will be the ones that are notified. And so it helps us to avoid mass quarantine, and it makes the process a lot more efficient. Again, you can go to www.gov.bm. Right at the top on that red banner, it will say WeHealth. You can click there to get all the information, to learn about how this app makes sure that your data remains private, to see the work of which we've done to get this part, and to also get information on downloading it and sharing it with friends. With that, I'm happy to take any any questions from members of the media regarding the WeHealth app.
Good afternoon, Mr. Premier. Maya Palacio here from Media Maya. My first question, you said that you'll be getting a verification code to be put into the app. If a notification is sent, but you don't have to add any information on the app when you download it, how will the notification be sent to persons?
That's just the way the technology works. If you go on, as I said, if you go online to gov.bm, the full explainer videos on how all of these matters work are there. But as I said, the app itself is built on completely novel technology. And when we say completely novel technology, at the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, there was a question of how do we deploy and how do we use apps to tackle this problem? Some countries like Singapore, they did Trace Together. I think India did something. I think the UK tried to pilot something. They were not fully privacy compliant. So they required you to give your name, your email address, all the rest. And so there wasn't high uptake because of the fact that it was, your personal information was being shared. In this case and instance, it is revolutionary insofar that, and as I said, Google and Apple worked on this protocol. This protocol is now a part of all the operating systems of phones. And the only apps that can work with these are apps that have been signed off by Google and Apple to make sure they protect privacy. And so there is no data transferred. When you download the app, it does not ask for your name. It doesn't ask for your email address. It doesn't ask for your phone number. It asks for none of that information. What it does is that if you are close to another phone that's there, it will just track the numbers. It runs algorithms that are on your phone. And then I think on a daily basis, it kind of uploads all these random numbers, which cannot be tracked to trace. There's a notification. You'll enter that number and it will trigger the notification to any of the phones that you may have been in touch with for that period of time.
Right.
The reason why that notification item is sent is so that individuals can't take out the phone and says, enter an exposure notification and enter fake notifications to set off alarms across the system. So that's the protection. So it only comes to the Ministry of Health in order to enter that information. But the Ministry of Health cannot enter that information directly. The Ministry of Health cannot notify people directly. It requires the individual to enter that information because the Ministry of Health does not have the information or data that is stored about this.
So when a person, let's say, for example, if a person gets a positive case and the results come back from the ministry, will that verification code already be put on that email that gets sent to people?
I do not believe that people who are positive are notified by email.
Okay.
I don't. So I think that what the Ministry of Health has done as part of the process now is they will ask persons, do you have the WeHealth app installed on your phone? If they do have the WeHealth app installed on their phone, they will issue them this number and they will ask them to enter that number into the system. So it will send out the notifications. The Ministry of Health will not know who's notified. So the notifications that will go out, the app will say, you have been exposed. There's a possibility you've been exposed. Please follow the following steps. So it may say, do this, do that, contact this number, X, Y, and Z. But the Ministry of Health won't know who's exposed. The person who sends the message or who is tested positive will not know who the message has been sent to. And the person who's receiving the message will not know who the message has been received from.
Okay. Thank you. Those are my questions.
Fiona? Thank you very much, Premier. Fiona McWhirter from the Royal Gazette. With regards to if someone gets a notification that they've been in the same area as someone who's tested positive, will they know the date and location where that potential exposure took place?
I think so. If you check online, it might show you, but I'm relatively certain that possibly.
Sure.
Possibly. I'm not sure though. So I don't want to be 100% on that.
I'm just thinking maybe if someone was with others who perhaps either didn't have a phone on them or didn't have the app, then that would, allow them to maybe alert those other people as well. But the information's online, is it?
Absolutely. And I think the full video, the explainers are there because, as I said, the most important part of this app rollout is that there's confidence that people know that their information and data is not going to be accessed by anyone. And the way that these things were designed is it is fully and completely privacy compliant. So the government gives up something. So it would have been far more, easy and efficient for the government to know all the person in touch with so they can contact them directly. But that would not fit inside of the Personal Information Protection Act, and that would be rather intrusive. So this is just another tool. The anonymous exposure notifications are helpful, but it requires people's participation. But we can see going forward, for restaurants that want to keep their patrons safe, for gyms that want to keep their patrons safe and others, they may say, please show me the app. Please make sure you have this app downloaded. This app will help because, a restaurant or a proprietor would prefer to say that all the persons who come to use the establishment, we know are using the app to save, a mass closure or a long time closure because the proximity of times that you were installed. And it has very sophisticated algorithms. So it notifies if you're within 15 minutes of someone, but it can also do cumulative notifications. So if you were in the same vicinity of certain persons who for about 5 minutes, another in 5 minutes. So it's a very complex algorithm that is certainly being built on this. The app itself came from Stanford University. Was originally called COVID Watch. And it's been rebranded to WeHealth. But as I said, it's been used, it's been developed from that aspect. And it's certainly something that I'm excited to deploy. But the best way for persons to make sure they take advantage of it is to recognize it is completely and fully privacy compliant. If there's one message that I ask your readers to know is that's the message.
Thank you very much. And with regards to if someone was to get a notification, my understanding from what you're saying is that the onus is then on that individual to either get tested or quarantine. So it's up to them then to take those next steps.
Absolutely. Because of the privacy function of this app, the Ministry of Health will not know who's been notified. The ministry, the person who's receiving the notification will not know whom they were in contact with. And at the same points in time, the person that you just don't know. And that's the beauty of it. And so the instructions will come to the phone, which will say that, there is a possible exposure, and the instructions will come from the Ministry of Health. It'll say, contact the hotline, do this, do that, all the rest. It'll be a standard message of the types of things that individuals should do.
Thank you. And I think you mentioned that with regards to the University of Arizona rollout, some of them avoid either a mass quarantine or a lockdown.
Mhm.
Is that what you're hoping for here, or do you think that there are tighter restrictions, such as perhaps a shelter in place on the cards for Bermuda?
I'm not going to necessarily speak and preface that. I'm giving a statement in the House of Assembly at 3 o'clock following a cabinet meeting, which took place last night to advise on next steps. But I think that I would have prefaced my statements last week and the week before that these are tools that are part of our disposal. And I think the most key aspect is that we have to make sure that we use technology. And these are helpful for individual citizens. It's not something for the government. Certainly the government wants there to be less transmission, but we have to recognize that it makes it easier if we're able to specifically identify and persons can understand what their risks are from where they were versus, oh, you were at such and such establishment in the space of 12 hours. You are now quarantined for the next 14 days. It's a lot easier to say, I was in close proximity to X. And so I'm certain that there may be guidance that's going to come out regarding establishments that are open for employees to make sure they're using this, because that's what's important. That's how this works. And that's, I think that, it's about choice and selection, and persons would, want to feel comfortable that they're going to a place where they know that they may not get stuck in a long-term quarantine, but the people can adequately manage the exposure, which they may be exposed to by being close to a person.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
And the last one, maybe for yourself or Minister of Health.
Well, she'll be here with me at 5:45 today.
I'll check first. The Minister of Health said in her ministerial statement this morning that the island can expect 9,000 doses of the vaccine, I think in January. Can you tell us if that covers 9,000 people, or with it being a double dose vaccine, does that cover 4,500 people?
The latter. And I
So
think the correct number
4,500
is
people.
9,750. I think that's the correct number off the
Okay.
top of my head.
But that's so it's half of those people basically that will be
Mhm, mhm.
covered.
That
I
many
appreciate that.
doses. And
Yes.
so, yes,
Thank you very much.
no problem.
Good afternoon, Premier.
Good afternoon, Don.
Don Burgess, Bermuda Broadcasting. Who owns WeHealth Solutions PBC?
As I understand, WeHealth Solutions is a public benefit corporation out of the United States of America. I cannot tell you who owns it.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
You
But
may have,
remember that it came out of Stanford University. So it started in research. But yes, it's a public benefit corporation in the United States. You can go to the website and get all that information that's there.
thank you very much. You may have just said this to Fiona, but is the app GDPR compliant?
Absolutely. Fully GDPR, fully PIPA compliant. That was one of the requirements for apps to work under the Google, Apple exposure notification protocol. So it's called the GAIN protocol, GAEN, but it's for Google, Apple exposure notifications. And the entirety of that was built to ensure full GDPR and full privacy. And as I said, the only apps that can work with that protocol are apps which have been signed off to meet that privacy standard. So as I said, the privacy commissioner reviewed it and signed off. There are different, I would say, places around the world where they are using these type of apps. But as I said, they have to be verified by Google and Apple that they do not infringe on their users or their users' privacy.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Do we have privacy laws in Bermuda in place to reassure people about using the app?
Absolutely. We have the Personal Information Protection Act, and we have a privacy commissioner as well, who is in situ. And one of the things, as I had indicated, is the most important thing for confidence in this app is that people recognize that their privacy and their personal information is protected. There is no personal information data that's stored. There is nothing that is linked to your individual information that is stored anywhere. And I think that's the key point to note. As I said, this is revolutionary technology. It has been signed off. This approach is a good one. And I want the people of the country to feel confident that their personal information is secure because of the use of this revolutionary technology.
Thank you. What happens to the data long term?
The data is deleted. It doesn't stay. It doesn't stay after 14 days. The data does not need to stay. All of that information is listed certainly on the FAQs on the website, where persons can go to www.gov.bm. We want people to know and to understand that their information is not shared and personal information is not collected. But yes, it is deleted after 14 days because it's not needed.
You mentioned earlier that by having the app, it'll help avoid closing down, putting everybody in quarantine. But that only works if
people are using it.
everybody's using. So, like for example, only 4,000 people have downloaded it. To what sort of level do you expect that part of it to be applicable?
Well, that's a difficult question, and it's a question of levels. The way that I've been asked that question before, and the way that I look at it is not so far as from a countrywide basis. It's more on an activity basis, and that's the reason why I say for companies that are that their employees cannot work remotely, they should require their employees to have this. And the reason why is for a number of reasons, of course. But for an individual, you would want to be running the app as well, because as an individual, you want to possibly protect yourself from going into just being associated with a lump quarantine versus a targeted quarantine. And but I think that you can see places such as gyms and restaurants and other places which are open indoors will ask their customers to have the app. That provides protection to the business, and that provides peace of mind to the consumer as well. So I think that I look at it from the perspective of groups and activities versus everyone using it, because certainly young children may not have cell phones, senior citizens may be shielding and not be leaving home, so that's not the persons that are counted. But for people who are, if they are engaged in activities which may be on a higher risk scale, such as going to the gym and others, I think that it makes it's wise and sensible that persons are using this app. And so I would encourage, as I had said during my statement, for business owners to do so, for company owners to do so. As I said, we're going to be working with the cell phone companies to send out a notification for persons for a reminder, but it is critically important that people download this app and recognize that their personal information is secure.
And this is probably an obvious question, but Bermuda has a cell phone usage or ownership of more than one per person. It should be downloaded on every phone a person has.
I would say you download on your primary phone,
Okay.
but I know that people have work phones and personal phones. In the case that some companies may opt to push that out as part of company policy, so it will automatically be on work phones. But if you leave your work phone home and you're taking your personal phone and then you don't have it, then that would be a problem. So yes, if you have two phones, then you can install it on both.
Thank you very much.
No problem, Don. Thank you for your questions.
Do we have any more questions from the media?
You want?
Thank you, Premier.
Nothing.
Thank
All
you,
right.
members of the media.
Thank you very much. Please go online and download the WeHealth Bermuda app in your app store today. Thank you.